recording this intro after I already recorded. And I just wanted to say that what came through, it might be very, I don't know if specific is the right word, but yeah, if it's something that as you listen and it calls to you, then great. If not, that's totally okay too. Of course, like with anything. But I wanted to say, I had been feeling really restless the last few days. There's just like this restless energy and also like an underlying anxiety that I had been just feeling in the collective. So yeah, if there's someone who's maybe experiencing any of this, excuse me. Yeah, I could feel a release happening. So, there's also a sense of it's sort of impatience, but I wouldn't say it's to the degree of maybe past versions of yourself being impatient. It feels like a much more patient impatience. I know that is like very paradoxical, but that's what it feels like. So, yeah, maybe just a little extra self-observing and compassion, really doing something for yourself that, I know I feel like I say this a lot, but really feels like a time to continue to really tune into yourself and see what you need in each moment in terms of like, maybe things that you used to enjoy or used to do just may not be as effective anymore. So there just may be like a slight shift in your needs right now. So just tuning into that could be of note. And if you're already doing that, then that's wonderful. There's something also about refinement and reattunement. So yeah, just working through any refinement of whatever it is that is coming through you right now. So if there's some sort of, I really keep getting that it's around like the way you treat yourself. And of course that can spill out into like all areas of life, right? So it can come and manifest through, like a project that you're working on or your family or friends or work, etc. But there is this like foundational how you observe and treat yourself. And most likely, if you're drawn to this, you're someone who's already been working through this, and many layers have been unfolding. And really you've, I guess you can say, been unlearning certain things, like stripping away some of learned behaviors that really just are not working for you anymore. But yeah, even if you're someone who's completely new to this and just starting, then I just heard like take a deep breath. Maybe you're working with the breath or being called to work more with the breath. And I do have some recordings on this channel. I think one of them is actually called Intro to Breathwork. So if you're someone who likes a more guided approach, you can check that out if you'd like. There's also like a million things on YouTube. Again, that's for people who are more in the beginning stages or looking for a new perspective or a new way of doing something. Let me see if there's anything else. The colors tan or beige, camel, and white, or off-white, ivory, eggshell, beige. I don't know why they're standing out to me for some reason. So maybe you can work with those colors and visualization, or maybe you're drawn to wearing those colors, or maybe they're in your vicinity right now, but for some reason that's coming through. You can also look up the spiritual meaning of those colors and feel free to share. Yeah, also protection has been coming through a lot. The word protection, protective energy, feeling like a protective it's interesting because it kind of feels like there's a protective layer that's been up for a long time is starting to fall away. So maybe the way that if you're someone who's very into like energetic hygiene, maybe the way you protect yourself is changing. There's something in Keylontic science, if you're not familiar, the 12D Monarch shield or the 48D shields. That's probably only for a few of you, but yeah, there's something definitely coming through about, I do talk about the aura actually at some point later in this video. So yeah, there's something about like energetic hygiene, protection, and like shifts in that, that are coming through. Okay, enjoy. You'll hear me say hello again, and that will be the start of what I originally recorded. Hello. So today, I have been sort of sifting through multiple topics, if you will, that I've been feeling, multiple different I guess you could say energies coming through, and I really was going to sit down and try and just focus on one specific thing, but I remembered one of the last things that came through in the last recording was the idea of like multiple timeline convergence. And right after that, I don't know if you can hear the cow in the background, right after that I was looking through something on either YouTube or Instagram, I can't remember, and something about the harmonic convergence, I believe in 1987, if I'm not mistaken, was referenced. It was like right after I recorded that. And so, yeah, there's something about that seeding, essentially, that time of the harmonic convergence. Actually, I was born in 1988, right after that. And I'm hearing in my head like the rise of the dragon. So I know this year is a dragon year, the year of the dragon, which is also 1988. So all the wind is like really picking up. I don't know if that's going to affect the recording. Yeah, so like I said, there were multiple things coming through. I do have a bit of I guess you can call it a head cold. I was talking about this the other day, that when I have these experiences now with like, you know, a bodily release of some sort, I'm trying something out. Yeah, it's almost like, you know, everyone's like, oh, you're sick, which is like what most of us say anyway. And yes, to a degree that's true, but there's like always these layers that come through of, you know, like a release, a collective purge, a personal purge, you know, of some sort of cellular shift and deprogramming, etc. So yeah, so you may hear my voice, if you have heard me speak before, it may sound a little nasally. Okay, let's see what is coming through first. I had a dream the other night where I booked a one-way ticket to Australia, and I have not been to Australia, at least in this life, but Australia comes through a lot for me, and other, I guess, like you want to call it like parallel lives or other experiences. Oceania has been coming through a lot lately in terms of like geographic Earth grid activations, at least from my perspective. And then there's a few other people I know that were speaking about this as well. And I just realized someone, she calls herself Indigo Angel. I learn and get a lot of, I guess you can say, validations from like her her work. It's really helped me a lot. And just validating what I feel. And she really goes into such amazing detail. Anyway, and a few months back, I had a dream that I booked a one-way ticket to Japan. And then, like, the other night, it was Australia. And she was live recording one of her grid work transmissions. And she was speaking about these new islands that are forming in Japan, like off the coast of Japan. And she was calling them, like, it's like the dragon's egg, like the birth of the dragon. So it's really, really fun to see, a lot of us, and not just like us being this present, but like people, the last however many years, centuries maybe, who have been, co-creating through this next, kind of like essentially preserving a lot of this quantum consciousness, if you want to call it that. And it's almost like, simultaneously preserving this inner wisdom, knowledge, whatever you want to call it. And then it's like the ascent back into the next golden age, essentially, is what is coming through. And it's been coming through for a while. There's a lot of talk also about divine unions. And I know that there's so much... I want to say distortion. I've seen so much distortion around this topic, which, if you look at it from a higher perspective, it's really all a part of the ascension and the remembrance and the experience. And I think some of that will weave through, because when I was sitting with the energies the past few days, there's been a lot of dream and astral communication that I've been receiving. And I'm sure a lot of others of you may have as well. For anchoring in and understanding on maybe like a more deeper perspective of like why this is so prevalent right now, why it's coming up, how it connects to cosmic consciousness and ascension, etc. So I feel like, I'll see how that weaves through. But I had made a note, like in the notes app on my phone, months ago. I've like been trying to create this video about this topic and how it relates to some Keylontic science teachings as well, and the grids and like the earth grids, the cosmic consciousness, like I said. So today I like looked at my phone, and I hadn't looked at it in a while, and right after I was pulling through a lot of that dragon energy, I forgot, because I wrote this so long ago, there was something about from the Ascension Glossary, the like amethyst order and the magenta dragon. Now I will go into detail with this. Either I'll see if it comes up more in this video, but if not, I'll definitely on Patreon go deeper with this. And I am trying to get the video aspect to work, like images and stuff. I'm trying to teach myself as I go. But where I'm staying, I may have mentioned this in the last video. Right now, the internet isn't super strong, and I don't have like access really to go anywhere else for Wi-Fi. I'm in a pretty like remote place, so I'm just sticking with audio for now, but I'm trying to make like diagrams and stuff. Anyway, so if you're interested in this stuff, thank you for your patience while I figure out how to add some visual aids. So some of the dreamscapes that I know I spoke of this in a different video, but I'm not sure which one, where I was talking about this magenta dragon that came into my dream a few months back, and it was quite large. Like, I want to say the size of like maybe one or two football fields, but it was like a plasma dragon. Like it didn't have like density to it. It was like quite opaque, magenta, had these like huge gold eyes, and it didn't say anything to me. Everything was more like a transmission and some telepathy. And I remember the people around me in the dream were people that I've known like for a long time in this lifetime, and they didn't see this dragon. They were just like doing other things, and I was the only one like noticing it. And it was, I mean, so big, like no one can miss this. Anyway, I'm bringing this up because when I looked at the notes that I made, I'd realized that was coming through the amethyst order and the magenta dragon lineage. So I'm sure as I continue, there will be more that unfolds with that. Yeah, okay, so back to the one-way ticket dreams of Japan, Australia, and then again, Polynesia has been coming up a lot, and that seems to all be classified under Oceania, which I love that word. And I started having dreams about Polynesian islands. I just realized that, actually, I forgot. I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, I had a few in a row. Oh my God, I forgot about this one. And one of them, I keep relating as I go through this. I know, like, if you are someone who's into the idea of Lemuria, or at least like the Lemurian epoch, something just flew in my right eyebrow as I said that, like a little leaf or something. And now my left eyebrow. Interesting. Yeah, and now I'm hearing angelic consciousness. So it's coming through these, if you want to call them like birthing of ancient wisdom codes through these different epochs that have been preserved. It's like from what I've understood and the way it comes through is like we go, like Earth, not just Earth, but planets in our solar system, they go through these natural ascensions and descensions, and a lot of planets in our Milky Way galaxy, there's, at least from our eye, no life on them. Of course, if you tap into the multidimensional aspect, I do believe personally that there's life, maybe not exactly as we know it, but there's like third dimensional, like our perspective from the 3D aspect, where planets actually go dormant, just like a volcano. So they go through their own natural, like I said, ascension and descension process. And I believe that's the same with humans, like if we're so connected to planets and the cosmos and everything that's going on, it's like the humans go through this natural ascension and descension process, and all of the other creatures, I suppose. Yeah, so with all of that, and if you're interested in more, I can cite or pull through some like resources. But yeah, so there's something that has been sort of coming, like I said from the beginning of this video, like the convergence coming forth of, those who, I suppose you can say, that incarnate with at least the more higher octave DNA, crystalline DNA preservation. Like even if it's not always super conscious, it's still alive in that potential, through bloodlines. And so those at this time that are really feeling that deep initiation activations through these remembrances, it's like there's that convergence point that is coming for now a deeper embodiment. It's like not just this higher realm off in the ethers concept. It seems like it's actually like where etherization of the blood comes in. It's integrating within the physical human vessel for those who have been on this, dark night of the soul, as people call it, the hermitage, inner initiation remembrance journey. There's another phrase that's coming through, but I can hear it, but I like can't get it. It's so interesting. It's like the story of the Philosopher's Stone, Camelot, like, the hero's journey. Thank you. Yeah, so there's something about that, and the path of the mystic, however you want to cultivate it, the cultivation that's been coming forth through, these like preserved consciousnesses, if you will, and the crystalline activations that are coming online, like the mirroring effect of what's going on within and how it shows up in our external reality, is just been for me like so interesting to observe, at least from like a personal standpoint, and as well as now like expanding it further into the collectives, at least that I feel connected to. And some examples of this, like when I had the dream about Australia, there were other things going on, but essentially I felt this I guess you can call it like a call in the dream to go to Australia, and I didn't have enough money at first to book a plane ticket, and somehow in the dream I like managed to meet someone who knew someone who had an extra plane ticket. It was just like ridiculousness in the best way, and I wound up getting this plane ticket, and I didn't know like where I was going to stay or how I was going to get back, and it just like kept unfolding. Okay, so there's that aspect, which does mirror some things in my life actually, and maybe in yours too, or maybe it will soon. And so maybe not exactly, but just similar themes. And then there was another aspect that came through. I kept hearing atomic spin, and literally as I was about to say that, I saw I think they call them like the helicopter leaves, where they fall off a tree and they spin like a propeller. And it's funny because earlier a little boy who comes to the retreat center that I'm at sometimes was playing with this little plane, and it had like a yellow propeller. Anyway, so I kept writing down, or I kept hearing the phrase atomic spin. And so I just Googled, I heard a phrase to Google in my head, and I can't remember what it is now. It was something like atomic spin something something. And what came up was an article from like something, a lot of things came up. Let's see. I have it right here. And I was drawn to a specific article. Here it is. That was written by, of course, it's not coming up right now, an Australian scientist. And this was like the day or so after I had this dream about Australia. Harnessing the power of spin orbit, hyphenated, spin orbit coupling, scaling up spin-based quantum computation. So I kept, again, seeing these connections with what a lot of us call divine union. There's other phrases as well. And quantum entanglement, and how, when this, I know quantum-based research has been coming through. I want to say more prevalent in like the last 30 years, but I could be off on that. But even within our own personal connection to some of these topics, it's like things that maybe weren't available to us before, or we couldn't perceive, start to connect in ways that we probably could never have planned. So the reason why I think this is coming through, it's kind of like the Tesla work, 369 code, the idea of free energy, and how it almost came on the planet when Tesla was working through it. Like he had it, and then there was a lot of things going on that it did not as we know, at least in this timeline, come forth. So that's a whole other thing. But I really do personally believe that like these things, these concepts come forth more in the mainstream when the consciousness is ready to handle it. And although there are some people who were ready, and this is not to say if you're not ready, there's something wrong with you, nothing like that. It's just development, phases of development. And yeah, so the fact that was coming up, the Tesla analogy is like when, allegedly after he died, all of his work was confiscated. I mean, I wasn't there, so I can't tell you if that's 100% fact, but that's what they say. And it wouldn't surprise me. Because there's different agendas and people want different things and have, if you're someone who's more on the like money keeping society at a more like, it's funny because I'm around a bunch of animals and sheep are nearby, and I don't mean to say anything negative about sheep, but just just more of like a fall in line type of structure, then something like free energy wouldn't serve that agenda, so anyway, all this is coming through, and a lot of the idea of quantum communication, in the astral realms, telepathy, in meditation, in those of us who are diving deep in those realms. Now, I find this article where there's an Australian scientist. It says, Australian scientists have investigated new directions to scale up qubits, QUBITS. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. Utilizing their spin orbit coupling, adding a new suite of tools to the armory. Spin orbit coupling, the coupling of the qubit's orbital and spin degree of freedom, allows the manipulation of the qubit via electric rather than magnetic fields. Using this electric dipole, DIPOLE, coupling between qubits means they can be placed further apart, thereby providing flexibility in the chip fabrication process. So this was really interesting to me because there's more, obviously, but I've been talking, not just me, a lot of people have been talking a lot about, electromagnetic, and how like the masculine polarity holds more electric energy and the feminine polarity is the magnetic quality. And there's been a lot of this talk on magnetism and how, learning to, whether you're a man or a woman, doesn't matter, like hold more of that magnetic. There's been it feels like a collective magnetic activation going on for those who have been in their more overworked or maybe lower or distorted masculine energy of overworking and grinding and trying so hard to do things and force things in a way, because that's what has been taught. There's no what I'm getting now is there's like a release of the shame around that, like people who are now realizing that it didn't, maybe it's like, oh, why couldn't I have been relaxed so much sooner? But like that was part, and my heart just started to hurt too. Yeah, there's this like heart release of holding any, just like wishing a different, like you would have done it sooner or doing something sooner. But of course, in the grand design of the universal flow, it really, they say there's no mistakes in the universe. I mean, that's up to you if you believe that or not. But and when we get into these more quantum spaces, time is not as linear and what's the word I'm looking for? Solidified as we may think. It becomes more malleable. And it's funny because one of the things I wrote down on those notes was number 108. You could be seeing 108, and then time travel and impermanence. So yeah, I'm sure that will unfold. But the cool thing about this, I don't even know if I mentioned what they're working on. Research teams from UNSW are investigating multiple pathways to scale up atom-based computing architectures using spin orbit coupling, advancing towards their goal of building a silicon-based quantum computer on Australia. So that's the basis of this article. And I just think it's so interesting because it's like, again, those who have been working on quantum spaces, and the idea, I love working with Ormus gold for this purpose, because that is what Ormus gold feels like to me. It's like, talk about like spin orbit, they say it's the the purest form of gold, so a single atomic gold element, which can work in a quantum space in the body, and it helps to bring back that remembrance and that body communication of quantum, so that when I say quantum, I mean like quantum entanglement. It's like your body systems work on a more quantum level, and that's one of the reasons why I love working with it so much, at least from my experience, and I've heard others talk about it. So it's cool to see how all this is just kind of coming together. And if you're like, what is she talking about? That's okay. Like, if you have any questions, feel free. I was apprehensive to talk about some of this because I know, it's not, like, it's just sort of flying off my brain from all of the things that I've been feeling and seeing. So, bear with me. And if you are interested, feel free to ask any questions, like I said, or comment your experiences with this. Or if you want to understand something at a deeper level, feel free to share that, and I can do my best to try and break that down. But yeah, so another aspect that came up for this concept of a silicon-based quantum computer. So when I first started getting back into, if you say, the remembrance of cosmic consciousness, someone recommended, her name is Lavendar. She has a website. Oh my God, I forget the name of the website. Starseed something. She is an astrologer. She's a pioneer in so many ways, and I've learned a lot from her. And on her website, she recommends to take silica, and I did for quite a long time. A car just drove by. 329 could be relevant for someone, that number, or the combination of 923. And when I kept seeing the date 12/24, so I'm not sure, I kept seeing something about the idea of divine union templates in 12/24. I'm not getting exactly what. And then I kept seeing around that also two butterflies flying together. There was a couple days, maybe 2 days, where I just kept seeing butterfly pairs. So there was a video I did a few months back, and it was, I believe, about a butterfly nebula. So there may be a message there for you. So anyway, progressing through. Silica, it really did help me. And of course, anytime I recommend something or just share what worked for me, please do your due diligence and tune into your own body and make sure that it's compatible. And like I said, if you're confused, I can do my best to assist you. Okay, so harnessing the power of spin orbit coupling. And I remember someone I know in my life said to me before, have you ever heard of quantum entanglement? And I had, and I love reading about these things. And I do not claim, by the way, to be any sort of expert in quantum mechanics. This is just a personal interest that I like to try and understand a little bit more, to express some of the more metaphysical concepts and experiences that I've had. So yeah, let's see. And when he said that to me, it was funny because I had been looking into that more and been having experiences around that. And then to find this, this article after having, again, a dream about Australia, there's just something here about silicon-based quantum computer. Okay, so there's something about, again, that phrase, as within, so without, as above, so below, the Hermetic principle, that those who are more tuning into this quantum field or the morphogenetic field, blueprints, soul blueprints, sacred geometric planes of dimensional perspective, and then integrating that, like these, what we call light codes and these higher octaves, and again, the integration within beings and in the earth grids, the earth itself. And there's then these out, more external reflections that show back, mirror that back in some way, like this, again, harnessing the power of spin orbit. And again, the idea of coupling, I don't know why I just keep feeling the connection with why divine union is so prevalent right now, and there's something to that as well. And like I said, I plan to let that unfold and go deeper with what I had already written down and some of the Keylontic perspectives. Where I am, I don't have access to Wi-Fi right now. I'm just reading like an old article I had on my phone. And so when I do the Patreon recording, I probably will go deeper into that. But excuse me. I will post link the article below in case you want to look at it deeper. And I wrote something down. I don't even know where I heard it. Earlier today, beauty of the aura speaks for itself. There's something, speaking of magnetism, the magnetic qualities of when the auric field becomes like centripetal. That's Dan Winter's work, speaking how the aura, it's funny because when I tap into people's energy, it feels like a reorganizing, like some people are going through this reorganization of their auric field into that more, if you will, quantum perspective, and deepening their own intuitive channel. And it's like, this rearranging. And so there may be moments where like you feel called to speak less. And I don't mean to not speak your truth. I just mean like you may need less words, or your form of communication changes. It's like your aura is more integrated within you. So there may just be like things happen around you that you may feel coming. And then it's just like, there's something about your own aura being like almost speaking for itself in certain situations. And if you're experiencing this, or you're about to, you'll know what I'm saying. I don't feel the need to over explain that right now. Now what's really interesting, I just found a white feather on the ground. That's not the interesting thing, but although of course I love finding feathers. White to me usually goes through, purity, purification. Again, the angelic consciousness coming through, the Lemurian aspects of reunions I'm hearing, with just people that may also sort of hold those Lemurian remembrances and codes. Oh, there's a jet. This is so crazy. I don't know why that felt so crazy, but there's something about the jet. Like, I have not seen I've been here almost a month and I've never seen a jet here. Of course, I'm hearing that song, Leaving on a Jet Plane. Don't know when I'll come back again. So traveling, of course, has been coming up a lot lately. A lot of rearranging on the planet. It's funny because I was talking about the rearranging of the auric field, and it's like it's causing these either geographic shifts. Quite literally, there's probably some tectonic plate energy shifting going on. I haven't done any research on that, but I've been feeling that. And especially in Oceania, Polynesian Islands, New Zealand, Australia, Japan, like there's really something about that area that just keeps coming up for me. Excuse me. Oh, and the 144 number, I've been seeing that too, and 1144. 144, I know there's so much talk about the chosen 144, and I've spoken about this before. And it does feel nice to be, chosen, if you will. But I also think that, and I've been saying this for a long time, that there's something about the Earth, actual like organic grid structure that keeps coming through. And then, of course, our own mirrored energetic fields that can hold that type of consciousness. And of course, going through the initiations and remembrances, like, this is definitely not a path, I guess you could say, most of the time anyway, of ease. I mean, it's funny because we say like we're going into that timeline of ease, but usually to get there, there's, that shadow and integration. I know we were just exiting a Pluto year, so this does feel like a culmination point for that as well. But anyway, so to me, that number really does signify like a level of consciousness, a remembrance, again, a holding of that, the codes, the space, the co-creation of the rise of the organic ascension timeline, and holding that frequency, and co-creating with it while integrating a lot of the darker and shadow aspects, that collective and personal, however that comes through. And so, yeah, there's that interconnectedness for the 144 frequency, 144,000, that to be able to hold that. And so, yes, I believe, and from my experience, we are reinitiated into that ability to hold that. And it is very special, but I believe it's like it really is like the forefront. I don't think it's a number of people. I hear a lot of people say that, and if that's what you believe, that's totally okay. It's just, that's not how it feels to me. Just because like people are dying, awakening, going back to sleep. Like there's so many different, yeah, it doesn't really feel like a number of people to me. It really does feel like the earth grid crystalline expansion and the rise of interesting crystals. They say crystals, when we talk about crystalline consciousness, the crystals are encoded and they can be used as essentially like kind of like a time capsule. Like you can encode crystals with information and then receive that information when it's time. And so if you look at that from an internal perspective, and we a lot of talk about DNA activation, and I talked about this in one of the last videos of the chemical process of expanding from the carbon-based perspective, from a higher perspective, is crystalline. So it's really that like transmutation process. And it's the same thing to me. It feels like the crystal veins that run through the planet and through the grids. And Indigo Angel was talking about these 12 solar discs, and the pinnacle, the meeting point or the convergence of these 12 solar discs that she speaks of are in Mount Pinnacle, which is in Arkansas. And it's so funny because that woman Lavendar I was talking about, the Starseed Hotline, that's it, that's her website. She holds her retreats in Mount Ida, Arkansas, and the crystal veins that run through there are very potent. And that was actually we went and picked crystals there, and that is when I started actually working with crystals, making tinctures and stuff. I just had this like knowing in a way. And so yeah, they're there, as for my understanding, as like mini time capsules that encode this more interconnected way of living, and higher consciousness embodiment. I'm pretty sure that they use quartz crystals and clocks. So there's different ways to harness the crystalline essence and the crystalline consciousness. But yeah, so that's why it feels like there's this big resurgence with crystals right now. And of course, like a lot of things that go into the mainstream, there can be overproduction or not understanding the depth of it, and that's a whole other topic. But anyway, what else wanted to come through? So I kept seeing the word binary code binary code for a while. I kept seeing zeros and ones and references to binary code. And then when I found this article, it mentioned, let me find it 1 second. Oh, here we go. I just clicked right on it. I'm just reading. Alright, before I get into that, the binary code and then the qubit, Q-U-B-I-T correlation, the last video that I was talking about, the Palladian electric masculine activation, I shared that in more detail. So if you're interested and you didn't hear it, you can feel free to go back. I believe it was the one right before I post this recording. And it's interesting that now, and I didn't find this article until after I posted that, and it's interesting, it talks about using the electrical, the manipulation of the qubit, Q-U-B-I-T, via electric rather than magnetic, because I was really talking about that amplification of the electric energy, and if you want to translate that into the polarities and the human connection, it feels like for the masculine polarity, there's like a slight hermit mode right now. And again, that astral dream communication. And, and if this is something within yourself, maybe you're having a little bit of a hard time, like taking action on something because it feels like you're kind of in that hibernation. It could be it doesn't feel super long, but yeah, so there's something about that. And then really, again, working in that magnetic, feminine receiving mode. And then with that integration of both of them, that comes online, that new consciousness, the integration of the masculine and feminine polarities. And, they say in like certain other higher realm perspectives, like there is no masculine, feminine separation. It's just one being. And there's said to be at different points throughout evolution that there were what we call hermaphrodites, but beings that were both the masculine and the feminine, but more on a I guess you could say a global type of scale. There's a book, oh my god, what is it called? It begins with a T, Prophecies. I can hear it in my head, but Tibuthian? No, it's something like that, Prophecies. And someone wrote this book saying he had an encounter with beings not from the earth plane, and that they were both masculine and feminine within one being. Yeah, it's interesting things to ponder. Anyway, with all of this, the connection of this masculine polarity and running this system more electric, and it's like this revamping of the masculine polarity. I guess a lot of people call it like wounded masculine or toxic masculine. I mean, I guess we can call it that. I'm trying to just honor all phases of development and understanding. But yeah, when we reinfuse that quantum perspective, both the masculine and the feminine have a more, I guess you can say, like evolved expression, and the repression of the shadow is no longer the main event. So when you integrate that shadow, it leaves for a fuller expression of these masculine and feminine polarities. And I don't mean to keep separating them, but this is just what's coming through. So let me see. Okay, the timer was 43, which is a very relevant number for me, and whatever you want to call this divine union template. So you could be seeing numbers, birthdays could be significant, or a gift of some sort. And I wanted to share a qubit, Q-U-B-I-T, that I keep referencing. It stands for quantum bit. in parentheses, short for quantum bit. So a qubit, aka quantum bit, is the basic unit of information in quantum computing and counterpart to the bit binary digit. So the bit itself, in parentheses, stands for a binary digit, the zeros and ones, in classical computing. So I find that so wild that the word counterpart comes up. And then there was also, when we talk about these, and it doesn't always have to be a romantic divine union. When I mean, I was talking about when the jet came through, and I think I lost my train of thought. Like people coming back together in different communities. And this has been happening off and on for a while, but there's, these different waves and different activation points that happen on the earth that bring certain people to these points, or, just these smaller communities that are forming or that have been being worked on. And, there's changes in that too. And just this like shifting around. But just when I was reading about the qubit, again, short for quantum bit, being the counterpart to the bit, the binary digit, the zeros and ones. And I love that because it's like, even though the quantum, it's like building on that binary digit. Like that's what we've been using for so long in computing, zeros and ones. And now they're not saying goodbye binary digit. It's a counterpart. So they're, it's like the alchemical process. They're transmuting that into this next form of communication, which is quantum silicon-based communication. Now, I'm doing my best to interpret this. So if someone here is like very versed in quantum mechanics and you're like, you have no idea what you're talking about, like that's fine. And please feel free to share what you know. It's just, this is what has been coming through. And and this is the way I'm perceiving it and connecting to try and understand what's going on in like some of the more, I guess you can say, like decoding these more, I guess, like sacred geometric blueprints and crystalline consciousness codes that are coming through, and how it's showing up in our realities in different ways. But again, the relationship, the counterpart for the qubit and the bit, the binary digit. And it's funny because I would say a few months ago is when I really was seeing the zeros and ones. And then this week, the connection to the qubit is coming through. So again, there's something about that, like the feminine and masculine. There was one more thing I wanted to read from the article that was coming through. It said, I already read this, but spin orbit coupling, the coupling of the qubit's orbital and spin degree of freedom. Freedom is the key word here, allows the manipulation of the qubit via electric rather than magnetic fields. So there's something about that too, because in free energy or more of the quantum spaces, when a lot of people say they just are, it's funny because I've been hearing a lot of like horses make their sound around here. There's a lot of horses, and horses can represent freedom. So there's something about this like integration of, if you will, the bit and the qubit together, that allows for this freedom, on a more, in communications, internal communications, in quantum computing and computers, like there's this next level of communications and freedom within that, because with all these integrations, comes new structures and new ways of design, I guess you can say. So I think I'm going to close this portion for YouTube and go a little bit deeper, see what wants to come through for the Patreon overflow. Thank you so much. If any of this sparked anything within you, I'd love to hear anything that came up for you. And thank you again for, if you're listening to this with your patience as I navigate through learning about content creation and some of these more multi-pronged ideas and codes that come through, and how they sort of unfold over time. So yeah. All right. Thank you. Also linked below. I know I already said goodbye. I'm my throat all of a sudden. I'm going to share. I was speaking about Indigo Angel. She made a whole video on the 144 grid and what she calls the dove grid. I'm going to share that below if you want to dive deeper. Now, if you're someone who's not as familiar with some of these higher ascension mechanics, it can feel a little bit overwhelming at first. So yeah, just utilize your discernment if you feel interested, even if you don't quite understand it. You know, over time, it's like these words are light encoded and seeded and activating for your contribution or portion to this higher ascension mechanics. So yeah, you can just receive it. That goes for not just the video I'm going to link from Indigo Angel about the dove grids, but also, I think I mention this quite often on this channel, but yeah, that's why I label a lot of these transmissions, because it's a transmission of energy and it's not always necessarily just about the words. So yeah, you can utilize your other senses to receive and perceive and discern through different information, in case you are unfamiliar. But anyway, I didn't fully listen to this specific video, that I'm going to post, but I've been listening to a lot of her work and off and on for a long time. And when I was talking about Australia, I love timing. It's so funny. I had listened to some of the video, but then I kept pausing it and, working on other things. And then right after I recorded this YouTube portion, I went to listen to more of her video, the one that I'm going to link below. And she literally starts talking about Australia and the grids and how there was an origination of the dove grid and the crystal grids in Australia. So the synchronicity just keeps unfolding, and, just from my own expression and sharing of some of these concepts, sometimes I will be guided to listen to things after, just to synchronize and keep trusting what I feel and what I'm receiving and stuff. And so yeah, that could be something you're going through as well. I'm just seeing if there's anything else. I think that's all. Okay. Yeah, like I said, the Patreon overflow link, when it's ready, will be also down below, along with the quantum computing article and the Indigo Angel dove grid video. And I may also link a few references from the Ascension Glossary from Lisa Renee's work about the her transmission on what she was calling, I believe, the Divine Union template. And then I'll probably go deeper into that in the extended or the overflow on Patreon. Okay, officially now, thank you. And that is all.